The following podcast is brought to you by the Johners Podcasting Network, found exclusively at WrestlingWithJohners.com. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Wrestling with Johners, episode 240. Got a fantastic guest, me, the inaugural Immortal Wrestling, a King of England champion, no less, RKJ, Ricky Knight Jr. Ricky, how you doing? And thanks for coming on the show, buddy.
No, I'm very well, thank you. It's a pleasure to be on it.
No, well, like I say, the pleasure is all mine. But we're going to be talking about your career. Like I say, what it's like being a member of the Knight family, literally being born into pro wrestling, and your career so far, Rev Pro, Immortal Wrestling, and all that good stuff. And of course, you've got an up and coming debut with Progress Wrestling. We're going to talk about very, very soon. But your last match, if I'm not mistaken, Ricky, was a few days ago for Rev Pro up in Sheffield. Dan Moloney. It was a no disqualification match. I've seen pictures. I know there's Thumbtacks involved. Tell us about that match, because I mean Dan Moloney is a tough enough opponent anyway. But then when you include no DQ rules, it gets a bit tastier, doesn't it?
Yeah, I mean I got I don't know, maybe 50, 60, 70, 100 thumbtack marks on my back.
No way.
I got kendo sticks on my back. I got marks. I got like chair marks on my back. I got a cut like on the top of my head. But Dan definitely come off worse off, so that's all good.
You won the match, which is the most important thing.
I won the match, and Dan had more thumbtacks in his back, so I'm a winner.
I'll tell you what, I've got to tell you, I mean, going back a few years, I think I knelt down onto a thumbtack that went into my knee, and that hurt. You know, you can stand on Lego, you can stand on a plug, but kneeling on a thumbtack hurts a lot. When you get thumbtacks in your back, in your arm, in your legs, hundreds possibly, what does that feel like? Did you get used to it? Is it just, I mean, you're a tough guy anyway, but I mean, that's something that's not every day, is it really?
Yeah, imagine just being like, a lot of people have got, a shoot job, so to say, just work in an office or something on the phones, and your boss comes up to you and like, with his thumbtack, I was like, let me just put this in your back. You're going to tell him to go do one. And just for the weird world that professional wrestling is, we get in a ring in literally like skimpy underwear, nothing, baby all up, in front of people there, and we're fine to get hit with a bamboo stick and steel chairs and go into thumbtacks. It's a weird world, but I mean, the only thing that keeps you going is the adrenaline, is like the fans there making noise. So, if you're watching this and you're going to a show and you see someone that looks brutal, please make some noise, because it does make it that little bit easier.
Good point. Yeah, the fan support and the adrenaline gets you through those moments, I'm sure. But I can't wait to see that match when it drops on Rev Pro on demand service. But speaking of that, I have been catching up with all of your matches on the Rev Pro on demand service. I highly recommend it to anybody that's not already got that. But as I mentioned in the intro, Ricky, you are the brand new, the first ever Immortal Wrestling King of England champion. Now that this episode is partially sponsored by Immortal Wrestling, and I want to thank them for being sponsors to this show. But how does it feel? I think it was probably a couple of weeks ago now at the Venom nightclub in Westbury, my hometown, believe it or not. And it was a bit of a unique match because it was a four-way involving yourself, Zach Knight, Tony Knight, PJ Knight. So four members of the Knight family in the ring at the same time for the King of England Championship. You came out the victor. How did it feel after that match to kind of hold that belt?
Yeah, I mean, it feels great. Obviously, to be the first champion, to be a champion at any point, any run on the ladder to be the champion, it feels great. But as you can see there, just to be the first one with that belt, a unique belt, one of a kind, and to be the first person and only person that's held it, it is special. And to be in there with, my uncles, both of them, Zach and Tony, and my cousin Patrick, PJ Knight, who I, grew up in this business with. It's special. It's the first time it's ever happened, and it meant a lot to me to sort of walk away from that, being a champion, but also to come away from that, like doing it as well.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned the bout, so a closer look at it. It's no ordinary championship bout. There's no leather to it. It's metal throughout. Very reminiscent, wrestling fans of the 80s and 90s, to the $1 million championship, which is metal all the way around, but a pretty special bout, and a decent bit of hardware there that you walked away with on the night. But like I say, congratulations, absolutely fantastic. I mean, was there any sour grapes on the journey home? How was the journey home with the other night boys?
Yeah, I mean, after a couple of hours, that was all right. We stopped and got a Subway, so after we've all eaten, we were all good to go.
Much happier after a bit of food, I'm sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
sure.
I want to talk to you about this. You're going to be making your Progress debut in about a week's time against another fantastic young individual in the business, Leon Slater. Now, we're going to talk about, you've been in the business for well over a decade. You could say you've been in the business your whole life, Ricky, but to make your Progress debut, that must be pretty special.
Yeah, I mean, it is. Obviously, you know, I do a lot for Rev Pro, as you mentioned earlier, but, you know, the new wave of Progress coming around. You know, I was meant to work from some time ago, you know, with previous owners, but dates just didn't line up and stuff like that. But the new wave, I think it sounds good and it suits me. You know what I mean? Like the new wave and bringing in like a fresh face, bringing fresh faces like Leon. You know, the lad I'm wrestling, who I wrestled like 5 years ago.
Really? Wow.
Yeah. I wrestled him in a 4-way. I think it was me, him, Alex Young, who's a fantastic talent, and a lad called, I think he wrestled as Kane, like Kane something.
Sure.
As at UKW, that's in like a rugby stadium. I remember as clear as day. And I wrestled Leon then, and he was crazy athletic then. And I see him at BWR very recently, and like, you know, to see the level that we're both gone from to now is great. I know for sure, like May the 15th at Progress, we're going to put a banger. And you know, I'm not coming to Progress full stop to be part. I'm coming there to have bangers every single show, have match of the night every single show I'm there, and obviously I'm there to get to the top.
Yeah, absolutely. We did have a listener question came in before we went live tonight from an Ashley Clements, friend of the show. And I'm sure he'll be there at Progress at the Electric Ballroom. Yeah. He asks, are you looking forward to your debut for Progress on the 15th of May against Leon Slater? I know you've partially answered that already, but there must be some nerves there, but you must be looking forward to making your debut at the Electric Ballroom also.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I wouldn't say nerves. I wouldn't say there's any. You know, the excitement to get in the ring is something I have more now than like the nerves. But obviously, you know, big shout out to Ashley. Like he comes to a lot of the Rev Pro shows as well. So I appreciate all the support, and hopefully you are there on the night and making some noise. But yeah, like I say, Leon's a fantastic talent, and I'm looking forward to getting there with him in a first time for, you know, a proper singles match and make some magic happen.
Absolutely. So I'm going to ask you, when did you first step into a wrestling ring? Because I've never had a guest on that was kind of born into the wrestling business. You were a third generation Knight, part of the legendary Knight family over here in the UK. But do you remember kind of when you had your first training session, when you first stepped through them ropes? Tell us about it.
Yeah, I mean, so when I first went in the ring, obviously I don't remember. I was like a week old. It was the first time I went in the ring.
Really? Wow. You weren't running the ropes at a week old, I'm sure.
No. I was just doing backflips. But no, my dad took me to the ring. It's like tradition in our family. You know, we're got some weird ways, but just take the baby in the ring, and I done that with my lad. Yeah. I took him in there, and I'd done the same thing. I was a week old. I think the youngest was like 3 days old. But for me, like I say, a week old. And then I started training around the age. I started doing like managing at the age of like 5.
Really?
Like crazy young. I was doing like little spots like the Bronco Buster, a hurricane run off the top. So I was training a little bit. Nothing too like strenuous on my body or, you know, too dangerous. Yeah. And then I sort of got not hooked into it because I was so young, but I love my football and I loved wrestling because what our family is like all about, wrestling and football. And I just got pushed into it more and more and more. And then I was at the age of 9, I was wrestling my uncle you know, in a different character. I'm not going to say which one, but in a different character, like near enough every other show. He'd call me out from the crowd and I'd wrestle him. You know, like I was like a fan, and I'd done that till I was about 12, and then I made my world class as my like not professional debut, but wrestling a man as what was meant to be like a young man, which was against Alex Young, and then from there sort of carried on going and going and going, and then when I got to about 15, I started working for Southside, PCW, and as I turned 16, 17, you know, started to get more and more and more. And then, when I was 19, I went to Rev Pro and ICW, which is a big jump.
Absolutely.
And then, then obviously, you know, now going to 22, I like to say I'm one of the faces of, you know, one of the faces of Rev Pro, and now going to Progress and wrestling every weekend, and sort of, you know, thankfully for the support, being able to live like a part of my dream.
Absolutely. And like I say, you've done and you've achieved so much. Like you say, you're only 22. A lot of people are already starting their wrestling career at the age of 22, but you've been in the business your whole life. You made your debut over 10 years ago. Absolutely phenomenal. Now, what's it like being part of the Knight family? Because it's a big family. It seems like most of the members are wrestlers. We mentioned a few earlier on. But like I say, you're obviously a well-known family in the Norwich area, WAW, of course. So I suppose you're kind of celebrities in that neck of the woods. But what's it like being part of the Knight family over in Norwich there?
Yeah, I mean, it's great. I mean, like our family go back for wrestling-wise history, like 35 years ago. WAW was actually founded in 1994. Right. So that's been going on, you know, a long time. My granddad started before that, working for All Star on the, you know, Brian Dixon on the camps. And what a lot of people forget is, like, you know, they mentioned like the third generation wrestler, but my granddad's dad, Charlie, was actually a referee. Right. So technically, there has been 4 generations in the business up to me. Yeah. You know, there's no one that started yet. Yeah, there is actually. My granddad's granddaughter, her little boy, wrestles. So technically, he's the first 5th generation, I guess.
Wow.
So there is at the moment, like, you know, at the minute there's 4 active, which is crazy. But all in all, it's been like 5 generations so far of this family, which is great. I mean, it's, you know, I love like the sentimental things like that. And yeah, just being a part of the family, though, you know, that is something I get asked quite a lot, and that's brilliant. Like, we're so competitive, you know, like if we all get together, and whether we're playing FIFA, whether we're playing Monopoly, whether we're playing Tiddlywinks, there's going to be arguments. And you know, if we're playing a board game, the board's going to get flipped, the table's going to get flipped. There's going to be an argument over something, because we're so competitive.
Yeah.
And you look at like everyone before them, like, you know, you had my granddad, my dad, Zach, like me, like everyone wants to fill those shoes and make them bigger and be like the best Knight. So you know, there's big shoes to fill with Soraya in the female aspect for the Knight family, you know, Paige. But for the male, like, my goal is to make that shoe so big no one's going to fill it.
Oh, 100%. And I think you're well on the way, to be honest with you. And like I say, doing the research and watching you work at Immortal Wrestling, I think you're definitely up there with being one of the best in the country, and well on the way to being one of the best pretty much on the scene anywhere, to be fair, with your experience, your knowledge, and what you're capable of doing in the ring, and the people you've been in the ring with as well, which we'll touch on very, very soon. Now, one thing I was fortunate enough to see at Immortal Wrestling before the doors opened was Zach Knight, Zach Zodiac, doing a seminar prior to the doors opening, and there was a few trainees in there. But I mean, the Knights are well-renowned trainers as well, aren't they? The WAW school, the academy over in Norwich, and I've interviewed several people that have either trained there or said that it's an ambition of theirs to actually go and train over at WAW. What makes what's the setup like over there regarding training, and what makes it so special, you know, that people are telling me they want to go and train over there?
I mean, I think at the moment what makes it so special at the minute is because you've got everything under one roof. Like, you know, you've got your wrestling ring, and where they train is where they do shows, because they've got the license for it. So like the venue they've got at the minute where they do, it's completely set up. You know, you got an 18-foot old TNA ring. You've got like LED boards and a proper entranceway. You've got a proper backstage. You've got showers. You've got officers. You've got like a shop for all your merchandise. You've got a TV, a t-shirt printing company. You've got dartboards, pool table, snooker, bar. Like, I think what makes it so special at the minute is because you've got everything under one roof.
Yeah.
And also from having a big family and it being run by a big family, believe it or not, the family actually don't really get involved in the wrestling so much. I have literally completely nothing to do with it. The only people that really are down there all the time are my granddad, Zach, and my nan, but they don't really get involved in the training too much. It's more like Jason Cross is the head trainer there.
Really? Okay.
But from having a big family, that you get a lot of different inputs into the wrestling world. Everyone's got a different eye, which is a good thing and a bad thing because arguments do happen. But it's a good thing because you take all the good and you put them in a pot, and then every bad idea or everything that person believes bad, they just leave out. So, because the other person will fight to be out. So effectively, you are getting trained by a lot of people just through one person.
Yeah, but I suppose you're learning a lot of different skills, a lot of different flavors. And I know with Zach in particular, he was showing a lot of kind of traditional British holds and how to get out of holds. So you do kind of mix it up with the different styles of wrestling that's trained down there. In particular, if anybody wants to learn the traditional British type of wrestling and wrestling holds, that's the place to go to, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, believe it or not, like I still go down there now and I'll train with Zach and I'll train with my dad, and they're not in there like getting me to to practice my 450 to do my shooting star press or like Phoenix splash. Like, they're not getting me to do all these power drives I do, all these like stiff strikes I do. The things they get me to do is to bump, to run the ropes. Like, I'll be down there, I'll be down there, I'll be playing pool, and my dad will come down and he'll make me get in the ring. It's not an option whether I want to train or not. He'll make me get in the ring and he'll make me bump like 50, 100 times, different bumps. He'll make me run the ropes for 20 minutes. He'll make me hit the bags for 10 minutes. Like, he's pretty strict on what I do, and so is Zach. That's why when I get in the ring, like, a big shout to like Dan Moloney, like we said about him. But a big joke is that I won't break a sweat. Like, I won't be there like blowing like because through the week they'll make me get in the ring like 2 or 3 times. But that's what's made me progress on, from where I was to hopefully keep progressing on from where I am now, to wherever. But it's just the consistency of keep practicing those basic things so you could do them with your eyes shut, asleep.
100%. Yeah, absolutely. I've got to throw a quick sponsors plug, RKJ. So 1 minute and we'll be back talking. But got a shout out to 1310 Apparel, the amazing sponsors to the Wrestling with Jonas podcast and the Jonas Podcasting Network. And if you head over to their store at Wrestle Merch Central, you can see their fantastic range of apparel, from their hardcore range of shirts and hoodies through to their lucha range of shirts, hoodies, beanies, hats. And then, of course, you've got their more traditional 1310 apparel and Four Corners gear there. And if you head over to their Wrestle Merch Central, you can see the exclusive Heidi Katrina 1310 t-shirt there, which is out and available now. And as a viewer and a listener to the Wrestling with Jonas podcast, you can take advantage of our offer with 1310 apparel over at their Wrestle Merch Central store. And at checkout, you can save yourself 10% off of all the goodies there that I showed you there. Just simply use the discount code 1310WMC. That's 1310 WMC at Wrestle Merch Central. RKJ, it's back over to us, buddy. So there we go. And I'm sporting the 1310 t-shirt there. So you know that it looks good. You know that it fits well. But tell us about when you started. You alluded to it earlier. I don't know how much you want to tell me here, but did you start off under a mask, Ricky?
Yeah. I mean, like, first of all, big shout out to 1310. Like, I've got some of the stuff, but if I knew I'd have wore it. But yeah,
awesome gear. Awesome
go
gear.
check it out. But yeah,
100%.
I mean, originally I started under a mask. So I said I started off managing. Funny enough, I was doing Dunk the Clown. I was dressing like an all-in-one.
Awesome.
I had like, a little mask on, a wig, and I was managing Zach because Zach was doing Zach Zodiac at the time.
Yeah.
And then as I got older, and I was coming out the crowd, I weren't wearing a mask because the idea was for it to be like a child. for the entertainment value. And when I got to 12 and started wrestling the men, I was wearing a mask. And I originally started off as RJ Knight.
Right.
I don't know why. That's what I started off at. I think it's because my name is Ricky Justin.
Yeah.
So Ricky Justin Knight. And then I then went to Battle Cat the Third.
Battle Cat 3, yeah.
Don't know why. It's just what I was given.
It's a cool name.
Yeah, I mean, it is a cool name. It don't ring as well as RKJ, but cool name. And then my dad was, my dad had a bit of an argument and said, no, he's being called Ricky Knight Jr. That's it. And from there, I've just been called Ricky Knight Jr. And yeah, I couldn't imagine now being anything else.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned earlier that you kind of started around the same time or came up through the business with PJ, with Patrick. Like I say, you've kind of come up through the business together pretty much, haven't you? And he's a former WAW World Champion. Tell us a bit about PJ, because I got the opportunity to see him for the first time at Immortal Wrestling a couple of weeks ago. A hell of a talent. Yeah,
I mean, like I said, we come up when I turned 12 and started wrestling the men. Patrick started training around then, maybe the year before, and then like a year after, when we were 13, we put together as a tag team. I remember our first match was funny enough, against Tony Knight. But he was doing a character called Waylon Knox, who was like a guy that was released from prison on a day release. And that was his character then. And we tagged from there till maybe like 2017, where I turned bad guy on him and took my mask off. So I turned on him then. And then we sort of went our own ways. He sort of done his own thing, and now he's like one of the top guys at WW, and I've come away and done my own thing away from there. And then now, like, slowly but surely he's getting seen elsewhere. He's been at Immortal, he's been at DOA, he's been at SOS, he's been at, I can't think of them all, but
he's breaking out big time,
making an impression. So like I say, he's only my age of 22. There's still loads of time. So the near future will be bright for the Dark Knight,
100%.
PJ Knight.
100%. I want to kind of skip forward in time a little bit and talk about WAW Fight Mayor 3. You probably remember it very well. I think it was a few years ago now. Was it June 2019 from Carrow Road, Norwich City Football Club Stadium in Norwich, of course. About 4,000, maybe 4,000 plus in attendance. I've seen a lot of the matches from Fightmare 3. Hell of an occasion. It must have made you very proud to have been a part of that show. Like I say, just the whole occasion was not just great for the Knight family, not just great for the fans of Norwich and WAW, but for British wrestling. That was a great occasion, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you had 5,000 people in. The show was rather long. Luckily, I was on before the end, but. Yeah, I mean, it's once in a lifetime to do it. It was June the 2nd, 2019. It's something I'll never forget. For as long as I live. I had almost, the special close people to me away from like my family and wrestling, like, my little family, my family, my own, were all there. And watch me in like that stadium, and like, I don't know, it's just crazy. It's Carrow Road is like the be all and end all of, as you can see there, the be all and end all of Norwich, and to be there performing and to do it with your dad as well.
Yeah,
someone, my dad is, to be fair, been like a pedestal of WW especially, but also going back to FWA and the match he had with like for Ring of Honor with Samoa Joe. So he's had some very high profile matches. So to be there and put on a good show, there was a lot of pressure on it, and I'd never forget like coming out of there and you were just even like awe, like looking around and just people upon people, and I just hope it's something we never do again, because it was so good. Yeah, I'd never want to do it again unless we're going to sell out. I'd never ever want to do it again.
But I mean, one thing that really struck me was when you first came out, you went up into the stands, didn't you? You went up into the crowd, you ran up the steps, you were slapping all the hands. You could tell just by watching you and watching your actions that you was kind of trying to soak in the moment and soak in the adulation of the 5,000 fans there. And then an incredible match. Before the match, I mean, I've got to say that the build was brilliant between yourself and your dad, and the angle and the story and the emotions. And then you had a cracking, I think it was 25-minute match, quite a physical match as well, I've got to say. I think you were probably both a bit beaten up after that, but you came out the undisputed WAW World Champion. After that match, you must have felt quite elated. Like I say, still on a high. But like I say, you took some brutal bumps. So I remember, did you do a swanton or a senton off the top rope to the outside through a table? That looked like it smarted a bit. But how was you feeling after that match with the championship belt?
I was bad. Like, you know, like you said about going, I went up into the crowd as soon as I come out, because that was like the only time and the only moment I had to take everything in, because at the end of the day, like, as much I'd love to just stand there and think, oh, you know, this is great. Like, I'm still there to do like my job, you know, the thing I love. So as soon as I got in the ring, like, that's when I had to turn serious and it's go time. But yeah, like coming out and just going up those stairs, and it's crazy. Like, and going over, I come in the railing, I went over the other side, I went over there where my mum was, my little brother and sisters. I went round the ring, and you know, to like all my, you know, other family as well, and yeah, just like looking in the crowd, like, seeing if I could see them. Yeah, it's crazy. But yeah, I done like a swanton to the outside through the table. That weren't like, the flooring was like solid metal. They put like metal sheets on the floor, so I done like this, and I was honestly like the tiniest match you ever seen in your life on the floor over the top of them. And Dad, I was on the railings, Dad jumped up and gave me like a belly to belly. I remember hitting that, and I just literally felt like I broke every single rib of my body. That was like horrific. And then another spot, and they pushed me into the railings, which are, you know, proper metal. They were meant to be like locked together and screwed in,
and it fell in, didn't it, onto some of the fans? I'm guessing they were okay.
Yeah, they're okay. But one of the screws like popped out, so you might have to put 3 in, and they put 1 through the middle, and just this one, and that just broke. So yeah, I mean, but you know, looking back on the match now, and how much like I've evolved just since then, I'd love to get back. And then my dad, I'm a lot stiffer now, so it'd be a lot more brutal. And the original strong styler v the current strong styler, and with see it walk out this time the winner.
Yeah, in fact, it's funny you should say that, because I had Robbie X on the podcast a couple of months ago, and he got sent in a question from a fan asking who strikes harder, Will Ospreay or RKJ. And I don't think he could actually kind of give one or the other, but like I say, you do like the physical style of wrestling, don't you? And like I say, you are extremely fast-paced, a little bit high-flying as well, but physical. You don't mind kind of giving as good as you get. Are there any opponents out there that you really enjoy getting in the ring with because of the physicality, and you know they're going to lay it in?
Yeah, I mean, like generally getting in there with anyone, like generally, you know, literally from the bottom of my heart. It's not saying this for you know, like, he's a nice guy, because I'm not, you know, I'm not trying to come across with that, but generally from the bottom of my heart, being able to get in there every single time, no matter who it is a blessing, because you know there's someone out there that can't, you know what I mean, if someone's been injured that can't get in there, to generally get in there, you know, it is a blessing. But there's some people, you know, like Dan hits hard, Will, you've mentioned Will hits hard, Robbie X, for, you know, a little guy, does hit hard. You know, there's quite a lot of people. There's not, you know, Chris Ridgway, like there's people that do jump out that will lay it in, and that's what you want. Like, you get in there and you want to, you know, you want it to be a scrap. You want it to be brutal.
Does that fire you up more though when it starts getting a little bit tasty?
Oh, I love it. You know, like, I come from a boxing background as well, so like, you know, the physicality for me, like, I don't know, like now it seems to get me excited. Like when I get into my family, like, we have to tame it down a little bit, because we'll get too carried away. And like generally, like, serious, you know, even when we're training, like I've wrestled Zach, and like I've come out and like, you know, I've been busted open, like the top of my eye, or one of us had a black eye and a broken nose, fat lips. Like honestly, like getting a fat lip and a black eye is not a common training for when we go in together, because that's how we are taught, that's how we're bred. Like, you know, like we'll stand there and we'll chop each other, you know, in front of no one, just to train, you know, like 10, 12 times in a row. Because that's just how we are, you know. It is like our method of madness. And so for me, like the strong style, you know, like especially the way you see like the Japanese wrestlers, how they're so aggressive and you know, yeah, just so on you constantly. It is, you know, it is really, I don't know, that's what really gets me excited about wrestling.
Yeah, 100%. And you mentioned earlier about Rev Pro, and I think you started performing for them. I think it was either 2019 or 2020, just before lockdown. You did the no fan shows. You came back kind of in 2021, of course. You've wrestled the best of the best, really, in the UK and across Rev Pro. Some names here: Mark Haskins, Robbie X. We mentioned Jay Lethal was one of your first opponents for Rev Pro. Dan Moloney, Big Damo, Gabriel Kidd have all given you fantastic matches. We're going to talk about high stakes in a minute, so leaving that to one side, but thinking about some of your other opponents and any highlights there for you, you know, in particular, some of the bigger names that you've wrestled for Rev Pro.
Yeah, I think like just for Rev Pro wise,
yeah,
obviously, you know, excuse the Will match. One that always will pop out will be me and Robbie X from February the 14th. Yeah, February the 14th, Valentine's Day. That's a Friday, 2020. We went in there. It's like big pressure on us. Like we done, I can't remember what the show was called, but it was either like it's literally the first week in January 2020. We put on a show in London, and me and Robbie, we had a great match. You know, and it was hum and a hum whether we're going to wrestle each other at York Hall or not, because it's a big opportunity for two British guys in a singles match that, you know, regarded at the time weren't very well known. And we did, and we put on a good show. And yeah, we got that match there. And I like to say that me and Robbie had a good match and sort of cemented ourselves into Rev Pro. We come from the South Side, part of the South Side, you know, roster and the package. And I think that night we were born Rev Pro roster. And sort of went from there. But yeah, I think that's like one that sticks out. And then on a personal level, like recently, I just tagged my dad against Aussie Open for the tag titles, and we won. So on a personal level, that sort of stands out for me as well.
100%. And I'm going to bring up the poster here. High stakes. Will Ospreay versus Ricky Knight Jr. It was the unification match, title versus title for the undisputed Rev Pro British Heavyweight Championship. I saw the match back last night. It's probably the third or fourth time I've seen it in total. Hell of a match, just as good watching it the fourth time over compared to the first one. The build up to the match, having, you know, yourself, one of the best in the UK, against Will Ospreay, arguably one of the best in the world. And it was a fantastic match. I think it went well over 30 minutes. A terrific match. You didn't know who was going to win until the very end. It really was back and forth. But what's your memories of that match? Because that's got to be one of the highlights of your career so far. And like I say, you kind of, you stood up to the test and you proved that you deserve to be spoken about in the same sentence as a Will Ospreay, for example.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, like on a personal level, like away from wrestling, I had quite a lot going on there as well. You know, to then get there and be able to deliver was, you know, a bit of pressure on it. Being the first York call after COVID, you know, there's a lot of pressure on it as well in that aspect. There's quite a lot of pressure, and just to get in there, Will, you know, Will as a character, you know, is hated. It's great, but you know, as a wrestler, love him or hate him, no one can doubt how good he is. And to get in there and, you know, like equally hold your own and put on a show, it's, you know, it's you can't really put into words. It's yet again something that may only happen. Well, it won't happen once. Me and Will are going to get back in there for sure. That's definitely going to happen.
Oh,
but,
it's 100%.
And this time at York Hall is going to be sold out. So if you're watching this, don't miss it. Like, we're getting in there again some point, 100%. And this time I'll do the job for sure. But yeah, like it's just great. Like the buzz around it. It's the first time I've come away from, like, I'd like to say, like not a global match, but where people are seeing a lot, you know what I mean? Like a lot of people, a lot of retweets about, a lot of messages about saying good luck, or, you know, that was great. I had people traveling down from Norwich, like 100 people traveling down from Norwich just to watch that match. So to be there, you know, with all them watching, made it a little bit more special as well. But yeah, I can't really put into words how good it felt. It's just, I'm grateful to be given that opportunity. And, for Will to get there with Will and show to him as well. Sometimes you need to, show to your colleagues that you're ready to go. And it was good. We got in there. We beat the shit out of each other.
Yeah.
And come backstage afterwards, both cut, both bleeding. That was beautiful.
Yeah, 100%. And I know for sure that as soon as that rematch is announced, I'll be getting my ticket. I want to come and see it, because that was just a fantastic match, and obviously one of the highlights of last year, and definitely up there as one of your moments of your career, I'm sure. But when you came away from that match, did you feel like a different wrestler? Do you feel like you learned something from being in there with Will, or going 30 minutes, with an ex-New Japan World Champion? What do you take away after having a match like that with Will Ospreay?
Yeah, I mean, at the time he was the world champion.
He was.
Yeah, so just having that, like, a lot of people forget, when you wrestle, or when Will's been over here, just wrestling the New Japan World Champion, being seen on like New Japan World, it's great. I wouldn't say necessarily like afterwards I was just buzzing, you know what I mean? Like all the way home, I got one of the best car journeys ever in my life on the way home. That was Rob Butler, Brad Slayer, and my cousin PJ, and honestly, all the way home we had a laugh, and we had a few beers on the way home. It was funny. It was good. And then like. The reality is, though, like, you do that and you're buzzing. You put on, like, what I believe to be, one of the great matches, of Rev Pro. And I got home at 1 o'clock, and at 5 o'clock I woke up to go to work. Like, that's the reality.
Yeah. But you were still probably buzzing. The adrenaline was probably still there after only 4 hours sleep. But I mean, I mentioned earlier that I think, with all these matches, all these great opponents that you're having, all this experience you've had over your lifetime, really being part of the Knights, do you think that you are getting the recognition that you deserve? In my opinion, certainly you're one of the best in the country, and I think when you're one of the best in Britain, that automatically puts you up there with one of the best in the world as well. So do you feel you're getting the recognition you deserve, and do you think that recognition, do you kind of feel that you are getting up there to be one of the best in the world?
Yeah, I mean, obviously that means a lot to hear it from someone else.
Yeah,
like for me, like, my goal is to be the best in the world, to many years to come, when I've retired or I'm gone, like, people are telling my son that your dad was something special, and and equally I want him to tell them that I was a good dad. Like, I just want people to talk good of me when I'm gone, not talk bad. So like, to hear it from someone else is what means. It doesn't really matter what I think. I'm always going to back myself anyway, but it doesn't really matter what I think. It's nice to hear it from other people. But like I say, just in many years to come, it'd be nice for people, when my son wrestles or not, hopefully not, but whether he wrestles or not, and he's going around the world, it'd be great for people to tell him a few stories about me that maybe I didn't tell him and he shouldn't know. And and then he just says, it'd be nice for him to talk good of me back, which I'm sure he will, and to be told positive things about me. That's all I really care about. I don't really care about like being satisfied as number one. I just want to be spoke nicely of.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, like I say, everything I've seen and all the evidence that I've got is that you are definitely up there. And like I said earlier, I think when you're being spoken of as being one of the best in Britain, that automatically kind of puts you up there as being spoken about as one of the best in the world. Because I think British wrestling is the best on the scene as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I mean, I strongly agree that the talent that Britain has got is crazy, like crazy good, and the amount of shows that go on here, like ridiculous. Like, you can guarantee, like, this weekend there's probably 20 shows. Like, it is crazy, and it's good. Like, I think as long as one place is doing good, everywhere else doing good, because you want every show to sell out, because there's more eyes on British wrestling, which we want British wrestling to be the best.
Yeah, 100%. As we start to wind down this interview, then Ricky, what's kind of next for RKJ? We know that you're going to be having your Progress debut in about a week's time from the Electric Ballroom in London. So that's another thing ticked off, and hopefully many more matches to come for Progress. But maybe a year or two in the future, have you got your eyes set on maybe going to a different country, the States, Japan, maybe? You got any ambitions like that, for example?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think every wrestler's got an ambition. They don't want to just be like a territorial wrestler. But yeah, I mean, like just the next sort of the rest of the year, I'm now, like you say, debuting for Progress. So I want to be a mainstay in Progress. So I want to be pushing towards the top. I want to be having killer matches and banger matches after match. There's a few tournaments coming up. Maybe go on one of them and see how far I can go, and just really push my limits as far as I can. With Rev Pro, I want to get back to that title picture. I want to get back to the main event, and just keep doing what I'm doing. Obviously, WW October the 15th, I'm wrestling Matt Cardona. So that's another big thing. Fightmare 4, 4,000 people. Hopefully, get behind that. So there's positive things coming. I mean, in the next coming years, I'd definitely be up for going to another country, seeing the world as well. Like, just be able to, it's not, necessarily just going to another country. It's be able to just see other parts of the world and live different cultures and a different experience to what I would here. But yeah, I'm just excited for where the future goes, and so just go with the flow, really. I don't want to stress about anything coming. Just take each day as it come, each match as it come, and just go into that match every single time and think, like I'm going to steal this show. Go to the next show, I'm going to steal this show, and I think if you do that, and I believe if you do that, then good things will happen.
So as we come to an end of this episode of Wrestling with John as Ricky, just an opportunity for you to throw out any socials where we could reach out to you, where we can say hi, learn more about RKJ. But if you've got a Twitter, an Instagram, or a Facebook, where can we reach out to you, buddy?
Yeah, I mean, on Insta, it's Ricky_KnightJR. And then on Twitter, it's just RKJ450. So come along and join the party and, see what's going on.
100%. But Ricky Knight Jr., you've been a fantastic guest. I really appreciate everything today. Some great stories there. Really enjoyed learning more about yourself and the Knight family. But hopefully we'll get to see you back, hopefully defending the King of England Championship back here in Westbury for Immortal Wrestling sometime in the future.
Yeah, I'm sure it'll be in the very near future. But yeah, look forward to it.
RKJ, thank you very much.